Another day, another Republican who fails to understand what the First Amendment actually means. What do I mean? Well, you have Representative Derrick Van Orden from Wisconsin, who now wants the governor of California arrested for saying mean things about Stephen Miller. Yeah, Governor Gavin Newsom's press office posted that Stephen Miller is a fascist on X on Friday. That post gathered over 24 million views as of Sunday night. So that's a rather quite a hit. And some people were raging over it. For example, Representative Nancy Mace labeled the post as violent rhetoric. How? I don't know. While Van Orden went a step further, calling this domestic terrorism. He said at this point, this reaches the threshold of domestic terrorism. This is no longer inflammatory, it is criminal. No one is above the law, except for Trump, and the Supreme Court made sure of that one. But hold on, is this criminal? Van Orden seems to believe so. He cited 18 U.S. Code 2331, which notes that the term domestic terrorism means activities that appear to be intended to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion. What? That, I mean, this doesn't seem to fit any of this, does it? I mean, calling Stephen Miller a fascist doesn't really fit the definition of domestic terrorism, does it? No. No. That is some bullshit. And look, it's especially how considering that Miller himself has frequently called things and people fascists, so wouldn't he be a domestic terrorist as well? See, that's what one of the problems here, okay, with this whole thing. And there are many problems here. Now, here's what he said in April of 2022. If the idea of free speech enrages you, the cornerstone of democratic self-government, then I regret to inform you that you are fascist. Okay. I kind of agree with that. Which is why it's extra ironic that the right wing is now cracking down on free speech. If you call them fascist, apparently you are committing domestic terrorism or something. Are you serious? Are you serious? Apparently they are. But there's more, by the way. In March of 2024, Miller wrote that the Democratic Party is now a fascist party using corporate and government power to punish dissent and dissenters. Yeah, okay, yep. Just like, they were the ones that tried to get the FCC to fire Jimmy Kimmel. Oh, wait, no, that was Republicans. That was Brendan Carr, who is a Project 2025 contributor and is now head of the FCC. Remember, he told ABC that we could do this the easy way or the hard way. His demand was that ABC remove Jimmy Kimmel's show, which they did for a short time. And look, the reason that Nexstar did this is because they wanted a merger. Okay. Now, a merger's got to go through the FCC. And so, yeah, they were going to sacrifice Jimmy Kimmel, okay, in order to get their merger, which would have been worth billions of dollars. And so, it was only due to massive consumer backlash that Jimmy Kimmel ended up getting reinstated. And so, based on that logic, then would that be fascist? Would it be you guys that are the fascists? I mean, here we have Derrick Van Orden calling to crack down on the free speech of the governor of California for saying mean things about Stephen Miller. Tell me again who the fascists are. Just tell me again. Okay. Now, just saying. Despite the threats, though, Newsom's press office didn't back down, and I like that because, here we have some Democratic staffers that are showing some spine, a little bit of backbone here. That's nice. In fact, they posted this. Ding dongs in the White House. If you don't want us to call you a fascist, then stop doing fascist things. What fascist things, you may ask? We're not doing fascist things. Really? sending the military into American cities for absolutely no reason. They're going to try to target Portland, Oregon. Okay, that's the next city. And then Chicago, D.C., L.A. And then, of course, you also are trying to curtail the First Amendment. Seems kind of fashy, right? But look, here's the thing. The right wing has completely diluted the meaning of the word fascist, right? And so not everybody knows what that is. They keep using the word. So I want to give you some key characteristics of fascism, and then let's see what fits, right? Now, one of the key characteristics is authoritarian and totalitarian rule, where they centralize power into a single leader or a small group of elites with no room for political dissent. Well, is Trump trying to do that? Well, yeah, trying to. He's trying to centralize power through executive orders, trying to appoint his people to the Federal Reserve to eliminate their quasi-independence. He's got the Supreme Court that rubber stamps everything that he does, comes to his rescue. Congress, Republicans in Congress are too afraid to stand against him. Okay, while Democrats continue to send strongly worded letters. And so, yeah, he's trying to centralize power. That doesn't mean he's been entirely successful, but he hasn't been unsuccessful either at trying to consolidate power. What about militarism and nationalism? That's the next characteristic. Well, the ideology aggressively promotes national pride and identity, often through militaristic displays and contempt for other nations. Oh, that's brilliant. Right there. Okay. Trump's military parade's a good example of that. His open contempt for other countries like China. Okay. And actually going after Brazil for actually pursuing legal a legal remedy against their previous president who had plotted a coup and had failed at doing so. But we're going after Brazil for that. Okay, trying to put tariffs on them. So yeah, that's another thing. Nationalism right there. The rejection of liberal democracy and human rights is another characteristic. Fascism, of course, rejects democratic processes and individual rights in favor of the interests of the state. I mean, see Dark Enlightenment, Project 2025. Look, Dark Enlightenment, by the way, Curtis Yarvin, they've said, and Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance are adherents to this, okay, to many of the points of this Dark Enlightenment, right, which says that democracy is incompatible with capitalism. So Peter Thiel himself had said that. And so, yeah, that's one of those things that they're trying to do to turn the country into basically a bunch of corporate districts run by a CEO, okay, where people can vote with their feet and run to a different district. Instead, if you don't like the Amazon district, you can go to the McDonald's district. I mean, I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty goddamn dystopian to me. But anyway, there's more. Cult of the leader is another characteristic of fascism, where the leader is portrayed as a heroic and infallible figure who embodies the nation's will and destiny. I think that one's a given. I'm just saying. Controlled economy is another characteristic. While there is some private ownership, the state exercises significant control over economic activity to serve the nation's goals. Again, you do have some examples of that. For example, the deals that this administration has made that gets them cuts of their profit. So I believe the chip manufacturers, and then, you got the tariffs and that, which again are not paid for by the other countries. It's paid for by us. It's a tax on imported goods. And so, it's okay. There's some of that. Emphasis on hierarchy, promoting a belief in natural social hierarchies, where elites are destined to rule and individuals' interests are secondary to the nation's. Again, that kind of fits. Scapegoating and persecution of minorities, that definitely fits. Fascist movements often identify enemies within society, like, oh, trans people and the left, and use scapegoating and violence to create a sense of national unity. Yeah. And usage of propaganda, using mass media to promote their agenda, glorify violence, and undermine factual truth. Again, that's a given. A lot of those seem to apply here with the Trump administration. If there's one thing I've learned about the people like Van Orden, is that they tend to accuse others of doing the very things that they themselves are doing. What is that phrase? Every accusation is a confession. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.